Okay, so let's try to. So it would be useful to see what is there, right? Let's see. Quickly examine a few entries in the data frame. Say first 5 and last 5, for example. So there are ready-made functionalities for that. So we can say df.head. So by default, you will see first 5 entries. Okay, by default, you see first 5 entries in the data frame. And in the same way, if you say df.tell, you will get last 5 entries. Okay, and if you in general do not know anything about these functions, there is a very nice facility here where you can put a question mark before this and enter. Okay, why hate? Generally, documentation should show up. Not sure why it is not coming.
So can you try head after question mark after the head?
It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. Question mark has to be in the front.
Now you can type df.head, I guess, without the bracket.
Let's check. Ah, good. Thanks. So you can see this function. So this is a very useful functionality. So whenever you want to know more about a particular function, you can just put a question mark. Followed by question mark, you should have the name of the function. And then you can read, what are the arguments in the function, what the function is doing. In this case, you can see that the function returns first n rows for the object based on the position. And the default value of n that is set here is 5. That's why you see first 5 rows. And Python documentation is very standard. In the doc string, the first line that you see here is generally one line description of the function, which gives you the gist of what is happening. So you can see that it returns the first n rows. And since this n, right, the argument here is the default value that is used is 5, we see the first 5 rows. And then there is a detailed description. Okay. Yeah, and you can then see what are the parameters, what are the return types. So here the parameter is n, and it returns first n rows. Okay, and then there is dataframe.tell. See also it returns last n rows. You can modify this n, right? You can set this n to 10, and you will start seeing first 10 rows. Getting it? So, but if you do not give any argument, the default argument comes into picture, and you see the first 5 rows. In the same way, you can change the number of parameters in tell and do last, let's say 3 rows. Okay. So yeah, so here we learned about head and tail for quickly examining the data. Just to glance through the data, we have not really done anything, but we just want to see what is there in the data frames. Okay, I can see a lot of questions. Yes.
Sir, is there any parameter that I can see all of the data by using head or tail?
Yeah. You can see all of the data, but it will be very hard for you to understand what's happening here, right? You can simply put df, and you should be able to see all of the data.
No, actually, by using head or tail.
With head or tail, right? So if you, so there are 442, I guess, the number of records, right? So you just say n equal to 443. You'll be able to see all of them. Yeah. Please mute yourself. Okay. So you can see that I used n equal to 443. So, it gave us all the rows, whatever there is in the data. Okay, but if you want to really know how many rows are there in the data frame, you can actually use a function called shape. Or sorry, not a function, really the attribute of the data frame. can say df.shape, and you can see that there are 442 rows and 10 columns. And where df is defined, there was some question, df was defined over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I understood.
Now you can just do n equal to 442 or n equal to 442. You will be able to see all of the data, but we generally don't do that. Okay. Typically, we just say df.head and df.tail. Okay, I'll write text here. Find out the number of rows and columns in the data frame. Right. So in this case, there are 442 rows and 10 columns. Any other questions?
So I watched the previous year lectures and I tried for this, dot shape and dot head, but for the breast cancer data, it didn't work. So does it have any type of data it works and it does not, or?
So is your data in data frame? That's the first question you should check whether the type of the data is data frame. It will work only if your data is in data frame format.
Okay, maybe that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. That's okay.
So by default, if you use the load breast cancer function, it loads it in the form of bunch object. On bunch object, these attributes or functions won't be available.
Okay, maybe that's the mistake. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. So specifically note that since we want to get the data in data frame format, we have set as frame equal to true. And because of that, we are able to load the data in the form of data frame.
So to use all these things, we have to do convert to data frame, right?
Yeah. We have to basically load the data in form of data frame, which is very easy. There is a parameter in this function called as_frame. Set it to true.
Thank you, sir.
And then then you get a dictionary, and in that dictionary there is a key called data. On that data there will be a data frame that will be present. So you just extract that and start working with it. Okay. All right. So sometimes you may be curious, right? What are the column names? So you can also see the names of the column. Let's see the names of the columns. So yeah, let us do that. So you can simply use columns attribute, df.columns. And you can see the 10 columns that are here. You can easily convert that into a list format by saying list df.columns. You will get it in list format. There are these 10 columns. So we know age, sex, BMI, BP. We do not know what these columns mean. So you will have to probably read the load diabetes description for that. So we can say load diabetes. So you should get used to this type of work. It is very hard for anyone to remember all the functions. So you should take help of documentation in order to understand what the data is all about. Even here, we do not see the description of the data set. What are those columns? You might have to go to the load diabetes page, diabetes data set. So this is a diabetes data set. And here I'm hoping to find the names. Okay. Yeah, you can see here. There are 11 columns. BMI is body mass index, BP is average blood pressure, S1TC is total serum cholesterol, S2 is low density lipoprotein, S3 is high density lipoproteins, S4 is total cholesterol by HDL, S5 is possibly log of serum triglyceride levels, and S6 is blood sugar level. These are those S1 to S6 parameters. Okay. Yes, these methods work for tabular data sets, but it's important that you load them in form of data frames. Then these methods will work. Yes, that is another way in which you can try. You can do DSCR on diabetes data set, and you should be able to see the, yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah, there is DSCR on this, so you can see. Yeah, all this is part of the dataset exploration class. You can check it later. Yeah, so you can do pretty print on this. You can just print this. Able to see. Yeah, all good. Okay. So these are those 10 columns. So it's important to understand what these columns are. And typically you have to work with domain experts if you're solving a real world problem to understand the meaning of the columns in the data. Okay. All right. So if you want some more statistics, some more information about what is there in each of the column, you can simply call the info function on the data frame. And this info function will tell you many things about what is there in the data frame. So you can see that there are 10 columns. How many entries are there? Overall, there are 442 entries, and they are indexed from 0 to 441. So what happens is that every row also has an index. An index can be a number, or it could be any other descriptive attribute. You can put a text string also. So here it is in form of numbers. So it's the range index going from 0 to 441. And there are 10 columns. And we just saw these 10. What are these 10 columns? So you can see that there are 442 non-null entries in these 10 columns. So there are no entry with a null value. Okay, so you can see quickly. So these statistics will tell you whether there are any null values in your data sets, right? And you can also see what are the data types of these columns. So these are all float columns. Okay, and you can also see how much memory this data frame is occupying. It is just taking 34.7 KBs of memory. Getting it? So this info function on the data frame is very useful to get quick glance of the summary statistics on the data set. Okay. All right, go ahead. Please ask a question.
Yeah, excuse me, sir. So here it says the data type is float 64.
Right.
I just want to understand, how did data frame know that it needs to use float 64?
This is by default, the data will be loaded in float 64 format.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a way in which we can specify the data type for a column? So for example, if I have a date data type, can I specify that I want a particular series to be loaded as a date
Yeah,
in a certain format?
You can do that. You can do that. And data frame can have heterogeneous columns. So some column can be in text, some columns can be in date format. That is all allowed. That's not a problem.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm asking this question purely because we just completed the DBMS course and all, right? So,
I see. Yeah.
So trying to see if there are parallels there.
Yeah. So think of data frame more like a relational table, right?
Okay.
So just like in relational table, you can have different columns of different types. You can also have columns of different types here in the data frame.
But I guess the difference is here. You in the beginning you mentioned that it is in the comment it was there, column store something.
It's a column store. Yes, it's a
column oriented.
It's a column oriented store. Yes.
Okay. So there it is different because then typically RDBMS tables are row store, right?
Right.
Okay.
But there are also column store RDBMS that are, column store databases that are also available.
Yes. I think Google BigQuery is one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Let's move on. Then sometimes you also want to know the quick statistics on the data that is stored in the data frame. So for that we have a method called describe. Let's use that. Let's get summary statistics on the data frame. We say df.describe. Yeah, now you can see in the describe, what happens is that it selects all numerical columns and the numerical columns are summarized. If you have any non-numerical columns here, the description simply ignores them. So you'll have to do something else for non-numerical columns in the data frame. But since you have all of the columns are numerical, here you will see 10 different columns, and for each of the column, we get count how many rows are there in each of the column, what is the mean value, what is the standard deviation, what is the minimum value, what is the maximum value, and then you get 25 percentile, 50 percentile, and 75th percentile. Okay, so you can use this information to quickly figure out whether there are any outliers in the data. So if your 75th percentile and max are far apart, then you can say that there are some outliers over here. In the same manner, if your minimum value and 25th percentile is far away, then you can also say that there are some outliers in this particular region. Okay, so this information will be very useful to figure out whether your data has any outliers. And by default, it shows 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. You can also change this. You can also change this to some other ranges. Let's say 20, 30, and 60, for example, right? Or 20, 50, and 70. So you can simply you can call df.describe, and you can put, you can say percentiles. You can say percentiles and give a list, say 20th percentile, 68th percentile, and 80th percentile. Yeah, you see 20, 50, 60, 80. Right? Yeah, by default, it gives 50th percentile. All right, so this is how you can quickly see the summary statistics of the data frame. So typically in real world, what we do is we do the describe, def.describe, and we transpose it so that it is slightly more readable. So now what has happened is the rows have become column. So now you can read it row by row. You can read the entire statistics, summary statistics of a column in a row-wise format. Some people find it easier to read. Okay, I'll just quickly take questions. If you want to count specific classes in target variable, what do you mean? Could you please elaborate a bit, Ravina? I didn't really follow your question, so maybe you can try to write it in slightly more elaborated format. I will come back to this. Yes, Anant, go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, I see that this mean of the age column is actually showing some negative number to power minus 19. What it might mean?
That could be because the data is in normalized format. They might have normalized data. That's a good. Yeah, data might have been normalized.
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you.
Because of which. Okay.